Like, I'll talk, right? I have no, people in glass houses can't throw stones, right? But there are times where I try and be respectful to people who I'm like, well, you know, like normal. It's like you looked afraid when you were talking. I was like, well, I was trying to be respectful to you, bro, because I was afraid. I did not want to piss him off and not know how to respond. But that's kind of how I'm afraid of most people who are over the age of 65. Like, I don't know how to put that nicely, but they've never liked me. Like, once you get to that age 65, it's like there's a steep decline on people who like Zach Polston. Okay, my whole childhood, my whole life, old people now. I don't know what it is. I was always like, and I know there are a lot of people who might be older than 65 in our comment section. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the ones that don't like me, right? And in my real life, when I'm not Zach the podcaster, I'm just some head with hand tattoos walking along the street. They don't seem to like me then either. Okay, when I'm driving in my car and I honk at them, don't seem to like me either. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying, I walk on eggshells a little bit. I'm like, all right, you guys lived before me. You know, I'm not saying your generation's responsible for the state of our economy now, but hey, I'm kidding.
Yeah, dude. So let's take a look at what Destiny said, and we'll take a look at a few minutes of what he's referencing here, because obviously the subject of the Finkelstein debate or Destiny debate came up in the bad faith discussion. Destiny posts a screenshot of it here and says, I think it always says something about the confidence of a side if they're willing to talk about someone, but they're never willing to talk to someone.
Norm literally he must have forgot. Destiny's not very bright. I don't know if he's doing some sort of electroshock therapy. I don't know if he's been indulging in some sort of ketamine usage in a way that's eroded his recent memory. I'm not here to judge him. I hope that he's happy. But what I will say is I do remember, just to act as a neutral party here, Norm and Destiny had a in-person exchange. So that would be a little strange here. You're a reporter and you're asking somebody about this person that they, in front of an audience of, 1 million people or so at this point, have seen that. And you're like, oh yeah, let's talk about that. And then for you to be like, wow, that's so weird. Why did you ask him about this very high profile debate you did with Lex Fridman's pod?
Right. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I'm not sure if Destiny is trying to allude to the fact that maybe he's attempted to set up a debate with Briahna and maybe she's turned him down. But I personally struggle to see that being the case. I would be shocked if Briahna turned down a debate with Destiny, specifically on this subject matter. Like, I mean, Brianna's so good at debating. She seems to be perfectly comfortable debating. She seems to seek out high profile debates when they become available to her. So I would genuinely be shocked if Bri turned down an opportunity to debate Destiny on the subject matter. And I really hope she didn't, honestly, because I think it would be an absolutely amazing discussion. Probably one of the best Israel-Palestine's debates that we could react to ever. Because I think that Briahna, Destiny would really meet his match next to Briahna. Briahna is so good at debating this issue, as you guys know from watching Rising. I mean, how many times now has she just completely shut down her co-host Robbie, in addition to many other people who have crossed her path. So, despite some of my disagreements with Briahna on other issues, I do think she's one of the best when it comes to Palestine. And I think that if she did sit down with Destiny, that it would be a quite compelling conversation. So it's interesting that Destiny's kind of acting like, they're too scared to talk to him, when obviously Norm literally did talk to him for 5 hours. And I imagine Briahna would be happy to as well. And then he also quote tweets his own tweet saying, "This pod from Briahna Joy Gray is unreal. It reminds me of the debates on YouTube in 2015, which is kind of weird, because in the video he links to, they're not even debating. They're just kind of roasting him, but whatever. He says, she lies about my position several times, says I'd be okay nuking Gaza, and they don't bring up a single point of substantive disagreement in this conversation. Why?" So yeah, do you got any comments on that, Zach, or should we just take a look at the first few minutes?
Here, I was actually going to pull this up just so that you can reference everybody the moment that Briahna was referring to here. Go ahead and play this with sound for you.
I don't know if Jim Crow would have qualified for a part. That doesn't make it any less. Excuse me, Finkelstein. I'm talking right now. Excuse me, Finkelstein. I'm talking to your friend over here. I don't know if it would have qualified as the crime of apartheid. Just like if Israel were to literally nuke the Gaza Strip and kill 2 million people, I don't know if that would qualify for the crime of genocide.
So That would be what she was referencing. I don't think it makes Steven, Mr. Burinelli, look very good. But if he wants to use that as a fucking cudgel to defend himself, go ahead and pull that clip all you want, Steven.
Yeah, exactly. We all know what she was referencing there. But yeah, let's take a look at some of this conversation between Bri and Norm. They talk a little bit about the debate.
I gotta say, it made for great TV, Norm. Like, honestly, I was cackling when the show dropped. It was a Friday. I don't do Rising on Friday, so I was kind of lounging around in bed, and I was like, "Little clear my schedule. I will not be roused for the next 5 hours or 2.5 hours because I did double speed until I listened to every word of this, and it surpassed every expectation. Not just because of the drama and kind of the hilarity of your obvious contempt for the lack of intellectual rigor that Destiny brought to the debate, but also substantively, both you and Muin Rabbani were just so thorough and persuasive, and you each brought different things to the debate, different kind of attitudes that have had effect working, I think, in tandem to address the claims that were coming from the other side of the table, kind of different tonal modes that I think played well with each other. Kind of a good cop, bad cop, if you will. And it was so satisfying and so informative. And you say, okay, it doesn't have as much reach as going on mainstream news, or that you haven't been invited on mainstream channels in the US, but there are millions of views on that video.
Please don't tell me that. That's going to ruin
He's going to turn into a star. We're never going to be able to book Norm Finkelstein again. And also, shout out to you, Kelly. Really appreciate the generous super chat. Destiny's beef with Norm is so ridiculous to keep listening to. Norm has better things to do than getting dragged into internet debate. I don't know if he does, man. I think this is a great use of Norm's time. I mean, sometimes you got to smack down. I mean, what's the use of reading for 10,000 hours or 10,000 books or however many books this guy's read on the issue of Palestine alone if you're not going to, whip it out when it's the most critical to make the case to the public? Of course, Norm's not actually debating Destiny. That's why he treats him the way he does. It's an interesting approach, but I think it's one that is worth unpacking. Instead of he's not interested in trying to convince Destiny, because Destiny's not interested in learning the facts. He's not interested in learning the realities of the situation. He's not interested in, changing his mind. So what's Norm doing? He's making a mockery of all of his positions. He's basically showing what a cartoon figure he is, somebody without any intellectual rigor. Right. And that is his way of saying to the broader audience of people who might have once been a Destiny fan, no, this is not at all a charlatan, or this is not a genius guy that has an answer to everything. I could easily make a mockery of him. He has no responses to the things that I'm saying, and I will treat him with the disdain that I feel like he deserves. I honestly don't know what else would Norm be doing right now. I mean, he can do it all from the comfort of his own living room.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Zach. And I understand what you're saying, Kelly. Like, let's be clear. Destiny is certainly beneath Norm Finkelstein. That's why Norm treated him the way that he did. But I don't think that it's a good idea either for academics or people of Norm's intellectual stature to just ignore kind of online thought leaders and high profile commentators because, whatever you feel about it, most people online watching, they don't care if Destiny has a PhD or not. It's not like they're taking him less seriously because he lacks the scholarly and intellectual rigor of someone like Norm Finkelstein. His audience believes everything he says for the most part. They think he's incredibly intelligent. They think he's incredibly well read. They think he's a, very intimidating intellectual figure, whatever. Right. So Norm needs to understand that, as he does, and deal with it accordingly. That's why he engages with people like Destiny. In the same way he'll go on Piers Morgan's show to debate him and Rabbi Shmuley or something, right? Like, you have to talk to everyone, and not everyone is watching Piers Morgan. A lot of people, especially from younger generations, they are going to be getting their news from Destiny. And let's watch a bit more of this before we move on.
Millions of views on that video. There are millions of views on your interviews with Jordan Peterson's daughter and Candace Owens. And remember that CNN only gets 500,000 views on a primetime airing?
Well, I have to tell you, Muin, who I love to death, I've known him for 30 years. We met in the early 1980s. we had a fundamental clash over what you call tonal mode. Because Marie said, I am going to speak not to them, but to the broader audience and enlighten them on the facts and just ignore the other people in the room. And I'm thinking to myself, maybe you're going to do that, but I am taking my
Okay, I have no idea what the fuck they're talking about right now. I don't know if there was another timestamp that we want to jump to, but I'm listening to this and I'm like, I am not deciphering what's going on right now. Sorry, chat.
This is what triggered Destiny.
Yes, he couldn't leftist joy. That was what it was. He was like, wow, he couldn't deal with the multi-generational lefties, coming together.